Hi, and welcome! If this is your first video, my name is Caressa, and welcome to yet another book unhaul. So today we are going to be starting on Rochelle Mead. I did get rid of the Vampire Academy books last time, but I have Soundless by Rochelle Mead, which I'm also very excited about. So theoretically we would start at Mead and work to Mills, but I think you can see this side of the bookcase a little bit better. So I think we're going to start at Mills and work back to Mead. Okay, that's all I have to say for the intro. I'm doing well. Hope you guys are doing well. I made a friend today and I'm really happy about it. Let's start at Mills. So this is First and Then by Emma Mills, and this is an Uppercase book. I was subscribed to Uppercase for about a year, and they sent me signed books with some swag. And this was one of the books. I was also really excited for it because Emma Mills is a booktuber. Plus the cover quote is from T. Michael Martin, which is another author that I'm very interested in. I have been told to look under the dust jacket. That's pretty nice. I saw several reviews where people compared this to sort of a cross between Pride and Prejudice and Friday Night Lights. It's a cute contemporary teen romance and everyone really enjoyed it, but I kind of have to be honest with myself and know that this is primarily a teen romance, and I just don't love reading romances. I read a lot more fluff before I knew that I was a romantic as hell. Anyway, I just can't see myself picking this up. So, I'm just gonna pass it along. I think someone else will enjoy it a lot more than I'm likely to. Okay, next we have an easy choice here. We have The Eternal Ones and All You Desire by Kristen Miller. I saw this book everywhere at every discount store you can imagine, and it just grated on my nerves to the point where I was like, okay, I'll buy it. But I have never been interested in this series. I've read a couple of reincarnation books that sort of play on the idea of who was he in my past life? Was he someone sweet? Was he someone evil? I just feel a strange attraction to him and I don't know why. And that why ends up being because they're reincarnated, intertwined souls or whatever. Remembrance by Michelle Maddow was one that I really enjoyed. But Elixir by Hilary Duff was one I did not enjoy. That one creeped me out. It was totally fine till like the last bit of the book, but I won't spoil it for you in case you are interested in Hilary Duff and want to read her ghostwritten book. This series, however, I'm ready to pass it along. There are lots of copies of this book floating out there, but if it's not a good fit for me, I don't need to keep it. Okay, next we have a sweet one, which I am definitely keeping. This is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sanya Mignon, I believe. People seem to either love it or hate it, but I think I'm gonna keep it anyway. I was so excited about the book. I love that there's diversity in this book. It's sort of the story of two kids who are kind of being pushed towards an arranged marriage with each other, and it takes place at a programming camp. I could see myself picking this up, so I'm going to leave it on my shelves, give it a couple more years. Okay, the next two books are The Apothecary and the Apprentices by Mally Malloy. I was so pumped for these books. I added this to my to-be-read list like back in the beginning of Goodreads many a time. It's a middle grade, which already means I'm fond of it. Additionally, it has hints of magic, but it does have a lot of historical background, and the first 89 pages or so it reads like historical fiction. But there are librarians saying they were blown away by this book. I think I'm gonna hold on to it for a little longer. I don't see it being the first book that I would pick up out of my hundreds too many books, but I do think it should stick around for a little bit longer just because I'm really fond of middle grade, and I think this is going to be a really good middle grade. The only thing that makes me hesitant is that it reads like historical fiction for the first little bit. Next, we have one of the series I love. We have Gods of Manhattan, Spirits in the Park, and The Sorcerer's Secret, all by Scott Nevis. In the book, anybody that has a legacy becomes a god, and they are centralized in the location that they're thought of and where they were. So this is Gods of Manhattan. You have people like Babe Ruth in being a god. You also have Alexander Hamilton. But I read the first one of these and I really enjoyed it, and I immediately wanted to read the next one. I only own the third book though, So I was very patient. Normally, when I just have the third book of a series and not the second, I start the third book. I'm like, first book, love it. Third book, gonna love it. And then the second book is kind of ruined for me because they have to sum up the events in the third book, and or I'm just totally lost. But I enjoyed this enough that I gave it enough room to allow myself to purchase the entire series. So I'm definitely going to keep these because these are really good books. On the cover, they have a quote from Rick Riordan, and I think that that is very telling. It's the right genre for this book. I totally enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to, you know, fans of Percy Jackson, fans of middle grade, anybody who likes that sort of parallel world stuff. We are up to the ginormous stack. How do you fit so many books on your bookshelf, Caressa? This way. There's a lot to look at here, and I have complicated feelings involved. Let's just start by taking Incarnate off the regular shelf and putting it on the ARC shelf. I bought this book on like a secondhand website, and it came as an ARC, and I think most people would be disappointed by that, but I was like, holy shit, it's an ARC! So let's just take this book off the end here. This is Soundless by Rochelle Mead. I had wanted to read some Rochelle Mead for a while, but vampires aren't really it for me. So this is a book that is steeped in Chinese folklore, and it has a whole cast. Everybody in the story is deaf, which is very interesting and a new take, and I hear it's done very thoughtfully and mindfully. I would like to try this book. I would like to read it and see if it's sort of something in my wheelhouse. It's not a resounding I will read it, I will love it. It's just like, you know, this is something I'm interested in. Okay, we are up to boy, do I have a story about Cinder. Yes, we are up to the famous Cinder, Scarlet, and Cress by Marissa Meyer. That was from memory. I am awesome. So if you know me, I've definitely told you the story, but there used to be this cute little indie bookstore down the street from where I lived in 9th grade. I was able to catch them when they were open, and it was kind of sort of one of those situations where, like, I think it was a book lover who wanted to display their books. I don't really think they wanted to sell them. But they were always very enthusiastic when I was in there, and they had so many signed books. I bought a signed copy of Will Grayson, signed by both authors, which is really cool. But they also had a signed copy of Cinder, and I had decided a long time ago that I was not going to pick up Cinder because this cover is atrocious, at least in my opinion. A lot of people picked it up because they love the cover. Not for me. It's not my thing. It also sounds a little more sci-fi. Some people really love sci-fi, and I would rather go a fantasy route than a sci-fi route. So anyway, I decided, look, I'm not buying this book. And I never got the opportunity to buy it again. And then later on, you know, down the road, a couple years, guess what book was released? So for those of you who are new here, my name is Caressa, and I have frequently been called Cress in my childhood, and I had very long hair that everyone was very impressed by. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like, okay, you broke me. I have to read the series now. Everybody's been talking about it for years, and I was like, it's not for me, but maybe it is for me. I like reimaginings, I like retellings, and I like books that start with the same 4 letters as my name. These books are staying in my collection. Okay, we've made it to a very interesting zone on my shelf, and that is the Stephanie Meyer zone. I mean, I tried really hard to read Twilight, and I was just like, it's fucked up. It's fucked up, and I can't handle it. I have no intention of reading the rest of the series. I know I can't power through 2 more of these. I just don't care. I just don't care. I think I'm gonna make an interesting choice here. I think these books will forever be incumbent in the public library, and I do not need to own them. So I am going to get rid of Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn, all by Stephanie Meyer, of course. But Caressa, there's more books down there. We'll talk about that. So the next thing on the shelf is Midnight Sun. And listen, I'm not interested in Twilight. Never have been. But I do love The Host by Stephanie Meyer, which we will talk about in a minute. So I know she has the capacity to write literature that I enjoy. This one's a thick boy, but I am going to keep it. I am. And I am going to see if it's something that I enjoy, partially. That's half of the reason I'm keeping it. The other half of the reason is I saw somebody Photoshop a potato in hands like this, and I want that cover. When I start learning how to design dust jackets, this one is getting a dust jacket, and that's the other half of the reason I'm keeping it, because I want a red potato cover on Midnight Sun. Is that ridiculous? Is that unreasonable? Yes. Moving on. Great. Okay, so the last book on this shelf is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. This is actually the copy that I read originally, and I love The Host, and I don't care what anybody says. And if she would write a second book in the series, I would read it. I love this book. I will read it again. So I am going to keep it. And that's the next shelf of the bookcase. We have finished the shelf. We successfully went through everything. We got rid of 8 books. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week. And until I see you next time, I almost said be brilliant, and that would have been like a major buzzkill. No. And until we meet again, bye.